guys. Today is a very special day. My name is Jensen, and I'm your humble host here on the show. For our episode 1, we have a special guest, Chris. Chris, how are you doing today?
Doing great. How about you?
I'm doing great myself. For those of you listening out there, this is a show that I have putting a lot of effort into creating, aiming to kind of dive into different flavors of EDH, talk about the format from different perspectives by having discussions with very unique and very good guests here on the show. And today, that special person is Chris. For those of you who are not familiar with us, Chris, why don't you do an introduction real quick?
Yeah, sure. My name's Chris, last name Murphy. I've been playing Magic here for probably... Let's see here. I've been playing Magic for about 6 years now. And yeah, it's a lot of fun for me. Personal life, I'm married with 3 kids, work a full-time job. So Magic is hard to squeeze in there, but it is still a lot of fun for me.
Yeah, sounds like it. Chris, when did you officially start playing Magic?
Let's see, it was the pre-release of 2012 was when I first started. So what are we looking at here? About 5 years ago now?
5 years ago.
Yeah.
What was the set at the time?
Let's see, so it's just before 2012 dropped. The pre-release was the first event that I ever played, so what came up before 2012?
I actually have no idea.
Oh, okay. Well, those of you who are out there who know, that's the set that I technically started on.
Sure. But 2012 is roughly the time that you started.
Yeah.
What is your favorite set out of all the different sets you've played so far, Chris?
You know, ironically, my favorite set is a set that came out well before I started playing, and that would be Zendikar.
Oh, wow. Okay, we have something in common. Very, very good. All right, my turn then, if you don't mind. My name is Jensen. Like I said earlier, I started playing at the end of Lauren Block. So kind of back then when all the Planeswalker was still brand new in people's memories. People are trying different things with them. It was a very exciting time. And I've been playing every single set up until this point. My favorite set is also Zendikar. I loved the limited. I know some of you out there have lots of things to say about limited Zendikar, but for me that was a very special set because everything about the set was powerful, was over the top, was crazy, and was fun, and I really, really like that. That's actually a good segue into going to what we're going to be talking about today. So something crazy, something over the top, something fun. Chris, how long have you been playing EDH?
EDH, let's see, I've actually only been playing that for about 2 years now.
Okay. 2 years is not a short amount of time. How many decks have you built so far?
Oh, God.
I know I put you on the spot here.
Yeah,
Give us a rough estimate.
Well, let's see. Deck building is my favorite aspect of Magic the Gathering, so I go through decks faster than some people go through a pair of socks, in all honesty. So the numbers is pretty up there. I'd have to say at least 50.
Mm-hmm. And around the 50 decks that you build, how many of those decks have you been reliably going back to? Or what are your top 3 choice for your deck?
Out of all the decks that I've built, the one that I have just recently gone back to would have been my Anafenza, the Foremost Human Tribal deck. I had originally built that deck. It was Human Tribal. It was really fun. I didn't really put too much money into it, but even having not put as much money into it, it was still a really good deck. And after I took it apart to build my Captain Sisay deck, which is incidentally another one of my favorite decks, but after a while, with all these really cool humans that kept coming out, I'm like, I just got to rebuild her because she was just so much fun.
For sure.
And then let's see, another one of my favorite decks would have to be my Surak, Timur Surak. He was really fun too.
For sure. Very, very active color combinations, if I may. So you said your Anafenza as your first choice, and the deck started out as a budget deck, but it was performing very well. Am I correct?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, she herself, her various abilities, it's just great. I mean, she's 3-drop, 4/4, exiles all creatures that go into your opponent's graveyard, and then she puts counters on your tap creatures. So yeah, she's just a really good card all around.
Right, stats on her is excellent. She does a very versatile things against very different decks in EDH format, especially the super strong ones like Carador and things like that. Yeah, that's actually a good point. A good point here. So, with your Anafenza, what kind of style is the deck, and how would you define? How would you compare the style of the deck to your own play style? Obviously, they must be closely resembling each other. That's why you like the deck so much.
Well, I would like to say the reason why I like it as much as I do. It started out as an aggro deck, like an aggressive style deck. A lot of cheap humans come out and just beat face. But I realized, and that was fine for the meta. But I realized as I continued playing that deck against various types of people, yourself included, those cheap humans don't really get you there. So it started out as an aggressive style deck, and then kind of evolved into like a more mid-range style deck. And the cool thing,
it went from aggressive to mid-range.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And the cool thing about humans is during the span of all of Magic, there have been numerous and innumerable amount of humans that have come out. So I've got a very large selection to choose from.
Absolutely.
And there's just about any human for any given situation that you can think of in the Abzan colors.
Yeah, we as human beings are persistent and good at problem solving, to say the least. Did the new Thalia make appearance in your NFL deck?
Yeah, she was an immediate plug-in. It was really hard to find something to cut for her, but yeah, she was definitely an immediate plug-in. I think in a multiplayer game, the idea of making people have to not only have their non-basic lands come into play tap, so all their fetch lands, dual lands, so on and so forth, but their creatures as well, just gives them that extra edge, especially for such a creature-heavy deck as mine.
Yeah.
Being able to get through while their blockers are tapped is essential.
Right, so she gives you a ton of tempo advantage,
Exactly.
for sure. Are there any other cards that came out in the last 2, maybe 3 sets that was an immediate inclusion?
Yeah, actually, immediate inclusion was Thalia's Lieutenant. Ironically, I actually took out Champion of the Parish for him because I feel like I feel like Thalia's Lieutenant is just a good overall card, whereas Champion of the Parish only buffs himself, and Thalia's Lieutenant just kind of gives that extra edge for everybody.
It's a little more selfless in that sense.
Exactly. And then, like we said, Thalia, and then Heron's Grace Champion.
Now, I am not familiar with this card, Chris.
Yeah, he's a 4-drop. 2 colorless, 1 green, 1 white, with flash and lifelink. He's a 3/3. When he enters the battlefield, he gives all other humans you control +1/+1 and lifelink until end of the turn.
If I remember correctly, he also had flash. Am I correct?
Yep.
Okay, so this is a very, very good. You know, like when you're saying stuff like that, I almost thought he was an ally, but he isn't an ally, right? He came from the Innistrad set?
No, actually, he is from Eldritch Moon.
Eldritch Moon. Okay, so yeah. Okay, cool. That's very interesting, and I can see how he almost acts as if he's a finisher for a lot of situations.
And he can be. In all honesty, I'm sorry, I use him more as a saving my butt.
Sure.
Time deal.
Sure. You push the button, you're expected the job to be done, right?
Exactly. I mean,
excellent.
If I'm swinging with my whole team, they're kind of expecting like a last minute finisher type deal, and it's more like you didn't expect me to save myself.
Right,
kind of
right.
thing.
I like that.
So.
Did the new Eldrazi displacement or replacer? Do you know what the card I'm talking about? From Battle for Zendikar? The one that can blink?
Oh, Eldrazi Displacer, yeah.
Yeah, did he make it into the deck?
No, I try to rely on as many humans as possible, trying to make it into a human tribal deck. I thought about it, but I don't feel like I have enough ETBs to make him worth it.
Sure. Speaking of ETBs, let's segue into this new, upcoming, really, really exciting set, in my opinion, Kaladesh. There are a lot of ETB stuff in the set, and there is even an artifact that says your ETB triggers twice, which I think is fantastic. In this set, are there any cards you are specifically excited about, Chris?
Yeah, ironically, the 3 cards that make me the most excited are actually not going to go into my Anafenza deck. They're going to go into another deck that I have.
Okay.
But the first of which would definitely have to be the new 4-drop Chandra.
Okay, for those of you at home, what does Chandra do again?
Yeah, just let me pull her up just real quick here. But while I'm doing that, the other one that I would like to talk about though would be the that 4-drop Simic legendary creature. When you cast a spell, you may reveal the top card of your library. If it converted mana cost is less than the spell that you cast, you may cast it without paying its mana cost, or otherwise you can put it in your hand.
The quote-unquote cascade creature, so to speak.
Exactly.
All right, so this 4-color Chandra, this 4-drop Chandra is 2 red and 2 colorless with 4 loyalty counter, and she has 4 abilities.
Yeah, and they're just really great. The first +1 that she has is exile the top card of your library. You may cast that card. If you don't, Chandra, Torch of Defiance deals 2 damage to each opponent.
And I would like to point out this is especially good in a 2-headed giant format.
Absolutely, because that would trigger twice, so that would take 4 damage instead of the 2 towards their combined life total. Her other +1 is just gives you 2 red mana to your mana pool. So
This is actually a ability I am very excited about. For my play style, I really prefer ramp. And anything that give me sort of a mana refund is good, especially versatile cards like Planeswalker that does way more than one thing. If I can get her out for 4 mana and she refunds me the 2 red back, I think that's more than worth it to having this card out on the battlefield, especially setting up for epic turn on the following turn.
yeah, she's the red Guruk. Instead of untapping 2 lands, she gives you 2 red mana. So
Sure, I can see that.
absolutely. And then her neg-3 ability is Chandra, Torch of Defiance, deals 4 damage to target creature, which is kind of lackluster in comparison to the other +1s or other neg abilities, but it's still not bad. I mean, she's a 4-drop, get rid of a creature essentially, and then she still gets to stay in the field because she's still left with 1 loyalty counter.
Right. It is unfortunate that she kills Teak, however, she is not very good against the Gadak Teak in the sense that she costs 4 mana.
Exactly. So her ultimate ability is you get an emblem with whenever you cast a spell, this emblem deals 5 damage to target creature or player.
Like any other emblem, this pretty much closes out the game very nicely.
Exactly.
All right, very good. I think she's a straightforward card, but she is a very efficiently straightforward card, and she can set you up for some really, really good things. Now, what about the second card that we were looking at, the Cascade Lady?
Yeah. Just grab her real quick.
I want to quickly point this out. I believe the Cascade is not necessarily exactly the same as Cascade, but more of reveal the top card of the library, right?
It is. Yep. You just reveal the top card of your library, and you may cast it if its total casting cost is less than the card that you just cast.
Sure. I play Maelstrom Wonder, so in a sense, she's like a mini Wonder. And if I can keep up with the spell count, then I can eventually net a lot of advantage. Go ahead and tell the audience at home what this card does.
Yeah, the name is Rashmi?
Rashmi?
Yeah.
Rashimi?
Eternity's Crafter. She's a legendary creature, elf druid. She costs 2 colorless, 1 green, and 1 blue. She looks as if she is a mythic rare, actually. She is 2 power, 3 toughness. Whenever you cast your first spell each turn, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a non-land card with converted mana cost less than that spell's, you may cast it without paying its mana cost. If you don't cast the revealed card, if you don't cast the revealed card, put it in your hand.
Okay, so at the very least, she draws you a card.
Yeah.
And that's very good. You know, originally I thought if the card doesn't get casted, it just go on top or bottom of the library. So being able to draw it actually makes me like this card a lot more. Now her stats is not bad. It's not bad. 4 mana for 2/3 is definitely 4 mana. It's definitely better than 4 mana 2/2.
It is, definitely. Like Captain Sissa is 4 mana 2/2. Who's in my Anaconda deck.
I like that. And the fact that she is a elf/druid can open up many interesting possibilities.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, very, very cool. What about the last card you're very excited about? This is Chris' top 3.
Yep, the last card I'm excited about is the new Planeswalker that they have spoiled.
I believe it's the 3 mana red blue one, Rahili Rai? Sahili Rai?
That's how I would pronounce that. Yeah, I don't see another way to.
Please excuse us, guys. The Magic the Gathering names are very next level, and we are still trying to get our minds wrapped around some of them.
Yeah, until we hear somebody from Wizards or something like that, or a pro player pronounce these cards any other way, we're just going to continue to butcher the names probably. So.
Sounds good to me. Sounds good to me.
So like we said, it's 3 mana, red, blue, 1 colorless, 1 red, 1 blue. Her first +1 is Scry 1. Shahili Rai does 1 damage to each opponent. Her -2, she has 3 loyalty counters, by the way. Her -2 is create a token that's a copy of target artifact or creature you control, except it's an artifact in addition to its other types.
That is a very exciting ability.
Yeah, and then that token gains haste, exile it at the beginning of the next end step. And then her ultimate is search your library for up to 3 artifact cards with different names, put them onto the battlefield, and then shuffle your library. That ultimate to me is really good, especially for Commander, because in Commander you have to have one of, a single card. You can't have multiple. So
Absolutely.
she fits right into a Commander deck. You're going to have multiple different instances of where you have 3 different artifacts with different names. So she just plugs right in. You get almost any artifact out of your deck.
And this is a place where my opinion differ a little bit from yours, and I'm sure that everybody has their own opinion when it comes to Planeswalkers because they just do way too many things. But I always evaluate a Planeswalker by their 0 or negative ability. Because according to the design principle, the negative or the 0 ability is the one that will, quote unquote, send you a rope, get you out of the bad situation. Or it's the one that if you activate immediately, it's going to turn things around. And I think Saheeli Rai -2 has both offensive potential and defensive potential. I'm looking forward to be able to cast her out on turn 1, having a mana crypt or having a Soul Ring on the battlefield, and being able to make a copy of it on the following turn and ramp into something ridiculously large. In my case, I play Maelstrom Wonder as my general, so having Maelstrom out on turn 2 gives me a lot of advantage. So that's something I am very excited about. Now, do you think people will replace Saheeli? Well, people would replace Thassa, God of the Sea, with this Planeswalker because the +1 ability.
Well, personally, I would take a Planeswalker over the gods, most of the gods, and obviously it would depend on the Planeswalker, but in this particular case, I would replace the god with the Planeswalker. Thassa is really good in that she lets you scry every turn automatically before you draw, which can be invaluable, and she can make something unblockable. However, what I like about Planeswalkers the most is that they take the attention off of you, if only for a second.
Yes.
And if your opponent has to swing at the Planeswalker one time, that's one less time you have to take damage and could be the difference between winning or losing.
Right. They serve as a very good divergent strategy in different kind of like EDH games, right?
Exactly.
Whether it's multiplayer or single player. So
that and Thassa, you're pretty much limited to what the card says. You scry, you can pay 2 to make something unblockable. That's
right.
it.
Straightforward.
The Planeswalker you can use the plus ability or the negative ability. You have choices.
More options for sure. And I also would like to point out that this Planeswalker, as well as the Elf Lady, the Eternity Crafter, they can be discarded for Force of Will. They can be exiled for Force of Will. Of course, you can't do that if the Crafter is your general, but that always make a card better, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Never played with Force of Will myself. It's not a bad card, it's just that...
If Force of Will is legal in Anafenza, you would absolutely love it.
I might. I have a Maelstrom Wanderer deck myself, and I don't think it makes a cut, only because I like to keep my cards.
Right. I can understand that. Now that we talk about the top 3 mythics of the set, how do you feel about Kaladesh coming from a EDH perspective?
I am really appreciative of the fact that they are including EDH players in the majority of the sets that they've come out with thus far.
Sure.
They are taking EDH players into consideration when they come out with these cards, because I can see a number of cards that are just EDH gold in this entire set. So, and they were like that with the last few sets, actually. The multiple legendary creatures that give you different generals, the multiple planeswalkers and new strategies and synergies, as well as adding to the existing strategies and synergies. Like when we went back to Innistrad, I was ecstatic because I was able to revamp my human tribal deck because there's a lot of different humans.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I came up with several different deck ideas with the different synergies that they had going on, like Delirium and things like that. So
it does feel like Wizards have been constantly trying to give all the EDH deck builders more tools to refine their crafts, so to speak. And yeah, in Innistrad, you are right. There are so many very, very good, very, very powerful humans to go on into the Anafenza decks, for sure. And this set, Kaladesh, is also, it feels very refreshing. I've talked with a number of players in my local meta recently. You included, Chris, and I believe that the amount of creatures simply with ETB abilities, most of them go right into multiple different EDH decks, if not all of them. The new Titans, right? The 6 mana, the Gearhawks, more than powerful for many different scenarios, and they have been so toned to the point like for the mana you're paying, you're getting insane value for them.
Absolutely. The Gearhawks are definitely an interesting addition, and like I said before, those are also EDH gold. They're standard as well.
Standard as well, absolutely.
I don't know that they're good enough to make any other format other than EDH or standard. Obviously, they're too expensive for tiny leaders, and I think they're too slow for modern or legacy or even vintage. But for standard and EDH especially, those abilities are just great.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. When the blue one first spoiled, I thought about it. Flashing in a big attacker, get to play one of your instant removal spells for free, and then your opponent shifts a turn and you get to smash them for a bunch of damage. That seems like standard must, almost. The tempo this card gives you is insane. And the Green Gearhawk, 5 mana, 8/8, right? In a limited situation where you're playing maybe green-white, green-blue, and you smash this thing down on the board and make all your flyers all of a sudden gigantic and get in there for damage. It is incredibly hard for us to race against this kind of situation. Even in EDH, being able to blink them constantly, with the new artifact coming out in Kaladesh that your ETB ability activate twice is also a incredible advantage for fertilize your specialty, your benefits that you're getting from those cards. Very, very, very good. And also for EDH players, there are even more exciting things, maybe more than what's coming out of the set, is what comes with the set. Right? Let's talk real quick about the masterpieces that's coming out. Chris, why don't you have this one? We are getting lots of exciting things. Please give us your thought on the most exciting card you want to open here at the Kaladesh Spirit release.
As far as masterpieces are concerned,
yes,
I would definitely like to open a Mana Crypt, not because it's most likely going to be one of the most expensive ones that comes out, but because personally I've never owned one.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That wasn't a good phrase question on my part. Besides Mana Crypt,
okay,
what would it be the most static card that you want to open?
I think any of the swords too.
Any of the swords, yeah. They have beautiful artwork.
It's just absolutely beautiful. Not only that, but like I said before, the swords are great and very versatile as well.
Yes, they can pretty much fit into any EDH deck and will always net you incredible value.
Yeah, we get Feast and Famine, Fire, Ice, and Light and Shadow, which are arguably the best 3 swords that they came out with. Feast and Famine has always been my favorite, just because you get to untap your mana and you need to start all over again your whole turn, basically.
Part of me wonder if Wizard ever regretted printing that card, because it gives blue so much power, so much more than they already have, and this card embodies like the green mechanic for me. And the control, the untapping, all of it feels like you are taking extra turns. You are abstractly drawing cards. You are taking free turns over and over for 3 mana, and that's just the incredible advantage.
Absolutely, and then the fact that this can go in literally any EDH deck, even Tiny Leader for that matter, it's ridiculous. It's great.
Absolutely. And I've heard people's concern about some of the Gearhawks and some other cards that's coming out along the Masterpiece, and personally I think they are fine. They are kind of like the Tangle-Land we receive from Battle for Zendikars. They're there for a reason. They're there to keep the set price under control, and they're there, I think, overall for players good. Would you agree with me on that, Chris?
Absolutely, and I was telling another buddy of mine that I think they wanted to give standard players something really special and really shiny to put in there.
That's a very good point. I like that.
I mean, it's definitely, it would feel very special to be able to drop one of these masterpieces in your standard deck, if not multiple copies of them, depending on how much a person wants to spend or how lucky they get.
How
in
lucky
their pulls.
they get. We all know
But,
those lucky friends. Yeah.
just to be able to drop multiple of these on the battlefield against your opponent.
Yes.
I don't think it's necessarily daunting, but it is like it takes your attention, if only for a second.
Yes.
This is really shiny. I'm gonna look at this.
This is very shiny indeed. Yeah, that's a very, very good point. Maybe when R&D first came out with the masterpiece plan, maybe they thought, hey, we want to divide the masterpiece in 4 portions, each portion catering to a specific meta. That is very likely because some of those masterpieces are very specific to different decks in different metas, the famous ones especially. And I read an article on the masterpieces. It's a way for Wizard to hand out the limited pieces back into the community. And they're trying to accomplish this without adding the extra price tag to the set. And I think this is something great. I'm looking forward to seeing the masterpieces coming out the Egyptian set. I think that will be very exciting indeed.
I'm excited for any masterpieces to come out here on. I'm just so excited to see what they come up with because I mean I saw this one and I was speechless.
Yeah.
I was so excited.
And I have a feeling the border is going to change according to the different catering to different types of masterpieces. Like we already got land, we got artifact. So in the next set, in the pharaohs, in the Egyptian set, we're most likely, my wild guess here is that we're gonna get enchantment based masterpieces. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they are doing, what kind of crazy style they're gonna do for the borders and things like that. Well, I think that concludes today's episode very well. Chris, is there anything else you would like to add before we close out?
The only thing I'd like to say is I hope that people can listen to these shows and come up with better ideas for their own decks or new ideas or maybe even get into EDH as a whole.
As a whole, yeah. EDH is very, very enjoyable. Otherwise, you wouldn't have played it for 2 years and still loving it so much.
Exactly.
This is our very first podcast here. In fact, we're still currently nameless as far as the podcast goes. There are lots of things for me as a host to improve on. So if you thought of anything that you would like us to improve in the future episodes, please leave a comment down below. If you like this content, if you liked how cool Chris was, or how amazing your host is, please smash that like button and also subscribe so that you can tune in and keep in touch with our future content. As of this current state, we will be releasing at least 1 episode per week. And I'm aiming to do so on either Monday or Thursday, depends on the time. And also for you guys who are interested in taking a close look at Chris and Anafenza deck, I will be having a full deck list down below for you to speculate or maybe change up your own Anafenza deck, or perhaps you want to build one of your own. Thank you very much again for coming onto the show, Chris, and everybody, thank you so much for staying with us. As always, I am your host and Planeswalkers. Keep on exploring, and I will see you next episode.